Hello, everybody. I am kicking us off here, but we're going to wait a few minutes just to see folks jumping in. I know we have all sorts of folks who mentioned they want to join today for this big milestone today, May 20th. We'll talk about why that's a big milestone here in a second. If you don't know, I think I said it on LinkedIn. If you don't know why today is important, then you should join. Or no, what did I say? I said if you know why today's important, then you should join. If you don't know why today's important, then you definitely need to join. So if you're not sure why you're here and what's the important on May 20th, you definitely want to stick around for a few minutes. So yeah, we'll wait a few more minutes and then maybe kick things off. Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
I guess it'd be quite nice to be blissfully unaware of this, since it's consumed like 3 months of our lives.
Yeah, exactly, right? Yeah. Ignorance is bliss to some extent, right? Let's get V in the house. She'll probably join some live streaming. Cool. Well, shall we maybe go ahead and kick things off, and folks will trickle in and not trickle in. But Mike, you want to go ahead and kick things off and tell us about the ACE that is hosting this, and yeah, just kick us off in that direction.
Yeah, so I'm Mike Day, also known as Dreamsuite Mike on the Atlassian community, Trello lover and fellow consultant / expert. And I'm also part of the Atlassian Solent Community in the UK, which covers a big chunk of the South Coast, along with Dan Toon. So this is a virtual event hosted on behalf of Solent UK. So yeah, join the group, join the chat. The links in the YouTube description, and also the link to the LinkedIn group. So yeah, please join. There's events throughout the year in person in the South, but also probably do some more virtual events this year around Trello, and there's other virtual events that get joined as well. So yeah, please come along and join.
Yeah, we're gonna have a great time. We've got a loose agenda. We had to have some sort of agenda because if you don't know me and Mike, we could talk for forever about Trello. I'm Brittany Joyner. For those who are here and don't know, I am obsessed with Trello. I've been using it for over a decade. I've helped different folks and individuals and companies use it, and seen people do a lot of cool stuff with it. And for fun, I just do more things with Trello. Like I have a YouTube channel, and I have a weekly newsletter where I share tips and tricks about Trello. So I'm excited to share and learn. Sometimes people are like, can you use Trello for this? And someone's like, no, you can't. And I'm like, oh, but you haven't tried hard enough then, because you can use Trello for just about everything. So yeah, I really think I've stretched it to some of its limits in some points. So yeah, Mike and I love nerding out about that stuff. I see we've got lots of friends here in the chat, like Alicia's here, Tony from Crumble's here. So we've got a lot of other fellow Trello enthusiasts with us here. Whale's here, Gabriel's here. Hello. You think in Trello. I understand you, Alicia says. Yes, exactly. We do think in Trello. I think that's true. Some think in Jira, some think in Confluence, some think in Logic, and we think in Trello. It just is what it is. So
I love that you chose to say Logic then Trello.
it's not always the same. Most of the time it is. It's not always the same. I don't know. We think different ways. So I'll go ahead and kick us off by sharing this sort of like, what are we even talking about here today? Like, what is May 20th? And we're talking about the changes on the collaborator limit for free Trello workspaces. And so if you're like, what does May 20th have to do with it? It's one of the dates in the milestones. But this change is basically a change to the free plan of Trello. Previously, you could, in your free workspace, which is a collection of people, you could have a board with 100 people on it. You could have 9 boards with 100. You could have 10 boards with 100 different people on each of the boards, and you could not have to pay a cent for Trello, which was extremely generous in my opinion, and it's something that they've done, like they've done for a while. But they recently started making some of these changes where you're limited to 10 collaborators in a free workspace. And Mike, do you want to explain the $1,000,000 question of what the poop is a collaborator?
Yes, yeah, this is one I've been enjoying this because it's kind of like the buzzword for early 2024. And if you
Yes.
go in every bit of software, they talk about collaborators. It's just a person. Like, so if you've got members in your free workspace, it doesn't matter what member, they're a member of one board, 2 boards, 50 boards, they're considered a collaborator. And so, yeah, any members in your free workspace are counted towards your collaborator account. So you are only allowed a maximum of 10. And from today, if you manage to hit that number, then you will find that your boards get frozen. We believe it's being rolled out as we speak. If anyone in the chat has noticed it, please give us a shout.
Yeah, let us know. I thought I had one remaining workspace that was going to hit that, but unfortunately I cleaned everybody up beforehand, and I think all of my workspaces are in good shape. The one that I thought was at risk is no longer at risk. So I don't even have a good example to show, but if anybody does, happy to chat through that. Curious if you're seeing it, and we'll talk more through what you're going to be seeing today. Yeah. Because what it was, they announced this back in March, right? The beginning of March is when they first mentioned this change coming. And they were like, so nothing's happened right away. We just want to mention what's happening. Starting April 8th, you won't be able to, add more people. So let's say you had, hundreds of people on hundreds of boards. Nothing changed. You wouldn't be able to add more people. Well, as of today, that is when not only can you not add more people, but your boards will actually become read-only if you have those people in there. So I think this is honestly still, again, a pretty generous way of dealing with this because, one, you're not actually losing your boards. You're not actually losing your content. Everybody in those boards can still see the content. They just won't be able to move cards around. They won't be able to comment on things, change fields. It's what it sounds like, read-only. And so somebody saying like, oh, the boards are frozen, which is definitely a way of describing that. But to me, again, the content is still there. No one is like losing any content. There are various power-ups and tools for exporting your content. If you've just decided like you need to get it out of Trello, like lots of different ways you can handle that. The other thing though, is that every plan or every workspace you're part of, even if you have done it before, you can get a trial of Trello. So let me see if I have like a good workspace here. So here's, a free workspace. You can, let me see, where am I at here? You can go to your workspace, and every account, even if you've done a trial before, you can still reenact a trial and get 30 days of premium for free, which is another nice part. It's not only just get a 2-week trial, you can get a 30-day trial. Also, hi, Andy. I see Andy's here. Of course, Andy, we could feel your spirit. We knew you were here. No worries on mobile. We're glad to have you. Thanks for joining. But yeah, so basically, this is where if you're like, today's doomsday for me, for one, it doesn't have to be. You could just, click this button and you're going to automatically get another 30 days to have all of your boards unfrozen. Everybody can read around, edit, and click and drag and do whatever you need to do in it. And, we'll talk more about various solutions for that. But if anybody is sitting on this call right now and panicking because nobody can move things in your board, go to your workspace settings, go to upgrade workspace, and just click this button right here. I don't even remember. Do they take your credit card? I don't even think they take your credit card. Yeah, they don't.
Completely no obligation. It's the 30-day trials live until the end of the month as well. So take the opportunity in the next week or so to use it.
Yes, exactly.
Even if this isn't a problem for you, just use it anyway. Just take it and use the extra features.
Yeah.
Cool. Nice.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's definitely, that's probably a good segue to talk about what is the difference between the plans, because, there you could go to standard and you could go to premium. So let's talk about the second $1 million question I get asked a lot. How does Trello pricing work? And the way it works is it's per user in a workspace, right? And so you can see here when you're looking at my Trello boards, I have a bunch of different workspaces, probably more than I need. Some of it is like people have added me to theirs. Some of it is just a way I sorted boards. I pretty much operate off of this one right here, which, as we discussed last week, and if you were at the live stream last week, the BC is it's a bit of a it's back when the premium plans were called business class, and I had a business class version and a non-business class version. So anyway, so this is my main workspace, but you can see how many members you have in a workspace by clicking on one. And let's just do this one, and then go into this members tab right here. And if you don't see this sidebar over here, just you can collapse it and uncollapse it like that. And just go to your members tab, and this is the collaborators number that we were talking about, where you can see how many you have and what you need to do with people. And so this one's got quite a lot. You can see what our workspace members and what our guests. Let me find one that's maybe a little easier to parse through, because we have a lot of workspace members in here. But the guests are what's interesting, because you pay for each member in the workspace, and you pay for any multi-board guests. So Mike, you want to help us understand this difference between multi-board and single board guests, because you don't pay for single board guests. So it might sound kind of obvious, but let's help folks understand what is the difference here.
Yeah, and this is an area that's caused lots of confusion over the last 2 or 3 months. In fact, even before this change was coming. So the multi-board guests, basically, if you've got a workspace and you put someone on one board, they're considered a single board guest. You don't have to pay for them. As soon as you add that person to another board, they become a multi-board guest, and you have to pay for them. At that point, you can add them to as many boards as you like, because you're paying for them already. They're charged at exactly the same rate as a workspace member. There's a subtle difference between the two. The multi-board guests can only see the boards they've been invited to, whereas a workspace member has the ability to see any boards in the workspace that are set to workspace visible. So there is a subtle difference. But yeah, to dumb it down as simply as possible, if anyone's on more than one board, they're going to be something other than a single board guest.
Yes, yeah, exactly. And when you're trying to figure out what am I going to pay, you're going to pay the plan you pick. So $5 or $10, and then it changes based on if you're looking at like annually versus monthly. But you're going to pay that price times by workspace members and multi-board guests. So let me show you an example in my personal workspace here. I have me and my partner. We are workspace members, right? It is just me and V. This is my partner. She's part of my workspace. I have 20 guests, though, in other boards that I have. And notice, only one is in more than one boards. So I pay for these two, me and V, and then this one multi-board guest. I pay for 3 of us, but there are 22 people who are involved in my workspace, if that makes sense. But that doesn't mean I'm paying 22. I'm not paying $200 a month. I'm paying 30, or actually, yeah, I'm paying, like $30 a month for this tool that I use all the time that does all sorts of cool things, such as giving me amazing views of my tasks. I've just been working on, this view I've been playing around with. This is what all I'm working on this week. And this is a workspace view that combines cards from multiple boards. So all of my different areas, from things I'm working on with life to work to, various things I need to do for my camper and things like that, all in one view where I can view it by, day or week or whatnot. I can also view it in, a table if I want to see it in that sort of spreadsheet view. That's really what I like about premium. That's really kind of, the views are kind of the big part for me, but also I do a lot with automation. So unlimited pretty much runs of my automations. Atlassian Intelligence. I've started playing with this a bit more. I actually, I've got something I'm mentioning in my newsletter about it this week, but I've been using Atlassian Intelligence to help me write descriptions for YouTube videos. And there's some other, security features here. Observers is another thing that opens up in this plan, because what you can do is add somebody to your board as observer. So let's say you want someone you don't want to make your board public, but you want specific people to be able to view your content and comment on cards, but not actually edit the content or drag them around. You can make them an observer. So like I said, this plan is nice, but honestly, a bit more than I guess a lot of people need, unless you're interested in those views, which I'll admit they are pretty handy. But if you're not worried about that, most people can get by with this $5 a month plan, which gives you unlimited boards. It lets you, get past that collaborator limit, because as you can see, I have in that workspace 22 collaborators. So as soon as you upgrade, you're not limited to you can have as many guests as you want, especially those single board guests. And so that's a super nice thing. You also get access to custom fields, which is a great way to kind of style your boards. And if you're like, I want to be able to track the status of something, or I'm tracking orders and I need to track like the cost of items, or whatever you want to do, you can make a custom field to do that. You have bigger storage for attachments on there and more automation and things like that. So all that is to say, look at these plans, go click that upgrade button, and see what you want to do, what you need to do, and definitely go for that trial. Go for it with premium, play with it. You might love the views, you might not use them, but like, it doesn't hurt anything because there's no card required, nothing going on for 30 days. So I see a question here real quick from Gabriel. Can you move workspace members to be a multi-guest board so they don't see all the boards in the workspace? You can definitely do that. What I would do is, like, let's say I wanted to do that with V. Let me move this so you can actually see. Let's say I wanted to remove V. I would just click remove here, and then I could go individually add her to the boards that I wanted. So like you said, it would be, multi-board guest in that case. So she could just hop in on whatever she wanted to here, or whatever I added her to, I guess I should say. So yeah, it's definitely not difficult to do that, move them around. You could also do the inverse. So I could, let's say, I'm realizing Shannon is already on multiple boards. I'm paying for her anyways. Maybe I should just go ahead and add her to the workspace, or things like that. And I can also see which boards those multi-board guests are a part of. And let's say, for instance, I didn't want to, pay for Shannon. And I'm like, she's a multi-board guest. So I can see, okay, she's on these boards. I actually don't need her to be on this board. So maybe I hit remove on that. And now I can see, it might take a second for it to update, but I've removed her. Maybe I need to refresh the page. Yeah, now you can see, now I don't have to pay for Shannon. I've cleaned that up super easy. So that's something kind of new that came around for as part of these changes. These are some really handy admin tools, so that makes it a lot nicer to interact and work with and things. So yeah. So let's see. Let me see. What else should we talk about here, Mike? We talked about the free trial. We've talked about tools for getting below the limits. We've talked about kind of some workarounds here for trying to have as many people in one board as possible. Maybe let's dive into that a bit more. I know we kind of touched on it, but yeah.
Because it's one of the biggest things, I think. So generally speaking, what I've seen is people wanting to stay on free, but one of the biggest use cases is they've got Trello as a free workspace, and they can fit their team within the 10. So that's absolutely fine. But what they've got is a business that they want to use Trello boards to share the progress of the projects with customers. So at the moment they've been inviting their customers to the board, but you can still have that kind of functionality in a free workspace if you use a power up. External share is the power up that we would recommend, and I think Britt, you actually use it already.
Yes.
For your thing. So
I use it I use it actually very specifically in this board because I have premium templates that I share with my premium subscribers to my newsletter, and I literally use the external share power up. I really should know what all these icons are, but I can create specific links and filters that say, cards with these labels or cards in this list. People with this link can view that, and it's effectively like a read-only sort of link, and you can make it password protected and all those things.
And it's also, so I've seen a lot of questions about the idea, if we want to do this, we can make the board public. But when the board's public, it really is public. So although they would have to know the address, it's possible that people can get hold of that and look at it. So the external share kind of helps you protect your data still, whilst being able to share it with clients. And the other thing is it also allows comments. So in external share, clients can set comments. And I've actually set automations that when someone comments on an externally shared board, it triggers something in the board to type approve or yes or done. It then moves it to another stage. So it's a really cool feature.
Yep. I don't actually have comments turned on, I believe, but you can see this is what it looks like from their perspective. So it almost looks exactly like they were, interacting in the board. They just can't drag things around and move it and mess it up. So that's honestly kind of nice. The other thing I like to do, I know a lot of people are hesitant to keep a lot of people on a board because they're like, things are going to get too cluttered. If I've got 10 people working in here, all of those cards, that's just going to get out of hand. Well, what I like to recommend is using board filters. And so, first of all, if you didn't know this, this is a handy shortcut. If you press Q from any board, it's going to automatically filter to just show cards that are assigned to you. And another handy tip here is notice this URL changes. And so it's now, I can save this URL. And every time I go to this link in any tab, it's going to automatically apply that filter. And so, and I'll be able to tell because this is up here, you know, I can always turn it off. So it's not like, it's not, if you're worried about other people seeing other people's cards on a board, this isn't foolproof because I can always go in here and just uncheck that. But if you're worried about the clutter, this is a great way to make it less overwhelming for people to live in one board. And, you know, some people are like, well, I need a different board for every month because there's so many different tasks going on. Well, you can add another filter for showing cards that are due in the next month or due in the next week, or, you know, whatever you want to do with that. You could even do ones with labels. So maybe there's ones that you want like leadership only to see, and every card with this label is what you want leadership to see. Well, you can again send them this, you know, this filter of that label and that label color, or, you know, you can filter by activity, all of these sort of things. So I think this is a super underutilized feature that if you are worried about too much going on in a board, then you may not be using filters to their full potential, or you may not have realized you can save those filters, and save that URL so that you can actually go to those specific cards.
Yeah, this is quite a common use case for quite a lot of businesses I work with, because they use Trello for dispersed staff, like remote staff across the world, VAs, this kind of thing. And I've always sort of said to them, just keep them all on one board, use the filters as much as possible. And then in the cases where, for example, they need to pull information from another board, so say they've got a board that's storing client information, you can actually set an automation. So like on this board, if they click a button, use an automation to grab a little bit of information from another board, so they don't have to have access to the other boards. And that means you can get them as a single board guest if you're paid, or it helps you know, keep the collaborator count down on your free workspace as well. So there's lots of little tricks and ways around this. A couple of other little mentions would be things like integrating Trello with Slack. So if you've got people you just need to have like quick bit of information sent, use automation to send information to Slack, or use a Slack comment to go into Trello. So it's again another feature that can really be beneficial when you're trying to keep the cost down and keep the number of people limited. Yeah,
that's a good tip too. About the Slack, or, you know, even integrating with other tools too. You can, you know, use something like Zapier. If you're already using Zapier, you could, you know, send emails when a card moves into a specific list, or, you know, do things like that. I see we've got some questions here. So Gabriel asks, can I use the Power Up export? Can I use the Power Up export tools using standard account, or do I need to switch to enterprise to export info? So that's actually a good question. Let's just test this out on something that's part of a free workspace here. So I do have some export options available as a non-premium workspace. You can export as JSON, which, fun fact, if you ever just add .json to the end of your board URL, it's going to give you all of that code anyways. And if you're like, this is terrifying, I don't know what on earth to do with all of this, there are tools. If you Google like JSON to CSV, you can literally paste, and, you know, like I said, you can export that wherever we were. What board were we in? Oh, we're here. You can like export that JSON, that all of that code. You can export that to various tools that will then give it to you in a CSV, which you can then convert to a spreadsheet. So that's one way to do it. Other things you can do, there are power-ups, right? So you can go to, oops, I always get those buttons mixed up. Do you ever do that, Mike? Like, I don't know why. I know they both make sense. Like power-ups and rocket ships should make sense. But to me, automation and rockets and lightning bolts and power-ups, like I have to think really hard about it.
Yeah, I can't commonly do that. And I can kind of get confused. Sometimes it's pretty random as to whether it has words up there or icons. Like, it's not always to do with where it hits on the screen. It's just, you can have one page open and another tab open, and one will have the words and one will have the icons. It's really weird.
Yes, yeah, it's true. Yes, yep, yeah. So there are different, power-ups here that you can do things. So I would say if you're doing like a one-time export, something like exports for Blue, well, even if you're not doing one-time ones, this is still a great power-up, but this one is free for your first 10 imports. And then if you need to do more than that, obviously you'll need to pay, but it's pretty reasonably priced. But you can see there are definitely different sort of power-ups for doing that. So you have plenty of options for exporting if you need to do that. Let us know if that makes sense, Gabe, or if we should follow up more there. And then Suzanne, you asked, where do you check to see what we're going to pay for? So that's where, if I go into my workspace here, or let's say I'm in any sort of Trello board, open this sidebar here, and you'll see, here's your workspace. If you go to this members tab, this is going to show you your collaborators. So that's, first of all, how you see how many collaborators you have. That doesn't mean you're going to pay for all of them. So I was mentioning this earlier in the stream, but you may have just joined on here. But I do not pay for 22 people. I pay for the number of people here in Workspace members, so 2. And then I go to this guest tab, and I pay for anybody that's in a multi-board guest. So right now I only have single board guests. I had an example of someone who was up above here in a category called multi-board. And there was one person there. So I was paying for 2, and then the one that was in multi-board. But I do not pay for any of these 20 people in the single board guest. So another good way to see like what you would be paying is, let me go to another free workspace I have here, is to, go into that free workspace, go to workspace settings, and then go to upgrade workspace. And it will calculate here what you've got and what you need here. So this upgrade page, it's going to let you know monthly versus annually, how many users you got, what you're going to pay for, and what that's going to look like. You can see in the standard plan, the premium plan, and as we were mentioning earlier, you can try it for 30 days for free. You don't even have to put your credit card in or anything like that. So that's a good way to kind of see what's happening, what's going on here, and get a feel for what that's actually going to look like. So the places you want are, you want to open this sidebar panel, which if it's closed, you can just hit this caret, or you can hit the left bracket key on your keyboard to open this up. Go to members and count. See, here's a good example. Count the number of people that you have in Workspace members, which is 1, and then any multi-board guests in here. And that's how you know who you pay for. So because I only have 1, that's why my, workspace settings, upgrade workspace, that's why my price is, just basically the annual price times by 1 user. So hopefully that makes sense.
I'm just going to quickly add something about the whole collaborator thing. When you went into the members page, the collaborator thing, it only matters if you're in the free workspace. If you're already paid for standard or premium, just forget it exists, because it just doesn't matter. It's unlimited. It's advertised. It's unlimited. So yeah, it's something you can just forget after that.
Yep. And Suzanne is asking, how do I make them guests? So let's go back to my workspace over here where I have more folks in. I did this example earlier, so this is being recorded. So if you want to go back into I don't know exactly what time it was, but earlier in here, I had someone who was in multi-boards, and I wanted her to just be in one board, so I didn't have to pay for her, so I downgraded her. I'm not going to kick V out of things yet. She's actually a member here, but let's say I, had this workspace member. I can click this and see which boards they're part of, and then I can remove them from boards. I can even remove them from the workspace. And if I have somebody, let me just, let's just actually add Shannon back to this board so I can go through this example again. So let's say I've added her in here. Share, she's added to this board. Okay, I'm going to go back to my members. Guest. All right, so here we go. I've got a multi-board guest, okay? And so to your question about how do I make someone a guest? If they're a workspace member, you can remove them from the workspace and then just add them to the specific board or boards that you want them on. If they're a multi-board guest and you don't want to pay for them at all, you only want them to be part of one board, you can click to view boards and see which boards they're part of, and then remove them from one of them. And then I think we decided we have to refresh the page. But once we do that, they're then a single board guest. So you don't have to worry about going into all of the boards, changing them, and doing whatnot there. That's how you manage those users.
And just to add, just so there's not some confusion about the whole guest thing, someone is a member of a board. They're not a guest of a board. They're a member of a board. And if you're a member of a board, you'd be automatically a guest in the workspace until someone who's an admin in the workspace bumps you up to a member. So forget about the whole guest thing when it comes to a board level, because if you go onto a board, you're a member. And if you actually go to a Trello board and hover over a user, it actually says that they're a board guest.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. It shows in like
workspace guest, sorry. Yeah.
Wait, sorry, what?
So yeah, if you go to a Trello board and you hover over a member, they're a member of the board. But if you hover over them, it will say that they're either a workspace guest or a workspace member.
Yeah, and that's not a good example because that's like a bot.
It's in the share in the share box, I think.
Oh yeah, well, yeah, there we go. Workspace guest, or if they're a member, you can add. Like that's so confusing because it's like member of the board, but yeah, that's where it says workspace guest. I'm trying to think of a better example where I have like actual like guests. Like maybe this is a good one because this board is in my workspace, but you can see, yeah. So these are all like workspace guests, and that's where you can see that.
Hopefully, Suzanne, we haven't confused you more, but like generally, if someone's a member of a board, they're a guest of a workspace, unless you push them up to being a member of the workspace.
Yes, yeah. Suzanne's also asking if each person has a workspace. So you don't typically. You can think of workspace as like a team. Like if you're like each board is part of a single team or a single workspace. So you're these are all the different workspaces that I have. But within this workspace, I have a bunch of different boards, and every single board that I have is part of a workspace. And you can see that by clicking these three dots, and then you'll go to the settings and you'll see the workspace that a board is a part of. So people can have multiple workspaces, but it's not like I would have this board in multiple workspaces. This board is in my personal workspace, and whoever I add to this board, is going to, if they're already a workspace member, I don't pay for them. If I add them to this board and they're not part of any other boards in my Trello workspace, then I also don't pay for them. If I add them to this board, but they are part of other boards and they're not a workspace member, then I do pay for them. If I don't know if that makes sense, or Mike, if you've got a better way of explaining that.
Yeah, I was only going to add to that, that if you add someone to a board and they're already on another board, it does actually pop up with a warning to say so.
Yeah.
So it doesn't ever just charge you. It actually tells you, oh, this person's already a member of this board. Are you sure you want to add them? Because you're going to have to pay for them. So it does give you a warning. And you've got the option then to remove them from another board before you add them to that one.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I don't know. It actually doesn't do that for me, and I don't remember why. But it also doesn't like charge me for them. I don't remember. Mine is kind of a weird workflow in this example, but yes, it definitely does show that in other boards. I'm not going to be able to replicate that very well, but yeah. So it's not like you're all of a sudden going to add people and not realize it, and then one day have 50 different people in there that you didn't know you were paying for.
Yeah.
All great questions, by the way. This is super confusing thing. This is why Mike and I wanted to hop on and chat through some of these things. So don't feel bad. No need to apologize. Please feel free to share and ask any questions. Yeah, this is we've kind of made it through our specific content, so we are here for questions.
Yeah, if you've got anything at all. I'm going to just mention a question that I've seen come up a few times since this change was announced, and that is people generally asking what happens if they pay annually versus monthly. So I just want to clarify that. So if you pay monthly, you're only committing to the term that you just paid for. So if you start on the 1st of March and then you decide at the end of that you don't want it, payment stops. So the 1st of April doesn't take any payment. If you pay annually, and say you've got 10 people in the workspace, you pay for those 10 annually, and then you cancel a few months later, you don't get any money back. You'll get free seats for any of the people that you've removed, but you don't get any refunds. If you then add people to your workspace, you will add them at a pro-rated amount. So whatever's left in that year, you'll pay. So it is important to think about if your business, and it's quite common with Trello, where people have members
seasonal
have been removed regularly. So just do the maths and work out, is it actually cheaper for me to save the extra $2.50 a month, or actually, because I know I'm going to remove these people later, it's easier for me to just pay monthly and take a slight hit.
Yeah, that is a good point. Do the math. People's three least favorite words to hear most of the time.
Yeah.
Let's see. Ray's jumping. Thanks for joining, Ray. Appreciate it. Alicia says maybe different departments can have different workspaces and divide one big team into different little teams. Maybe could be a solution to keep free Trello. It, it could be. I know we've talked about this a little bit with the product team, and they're not really recommending the solution is to not try to come up with a bunch of different workspaces because, just there's. It could be more complicated down the road if they end up limiting how many different workspaces you have. And I can attest, it's so much easier to have things as part of one workspace if you're trying to if you're interacting in boards in those different workspaces, just being able to, view the workspace views, being able to combine things from those different boards. Like Alicia said, this could be a situation or a solution that works for some people. There will be some trade-offs with that. And in some case, it could just be kicking the can down the road to, have to deal with something like this. Like if Trello decides to limit you to a certain number of workspaces. I don't know that they're going to do that. I don't have any intel saying they will or won't, but just sharing that.
Yeah, and I think the workspaces are a bit of a strange one because the way I've interpreted them always is like treat a workspace like a particular business, or if you've got a big business, like a particular business section or sub business. It's not really like something to kind of have. Oh, this is a project, so I'm going to have a workspace. This is another project, so I'm going to have a workspace. It's kind of definitely designed to kind of separate lumps of businesses, and they don't work that well together. So I wouldn't recommend looking to try and circumvent the limit of 10 by doing this, because it would just be hard to manage. It would completely unmanageable if you start doing that, especially if you have hundreds of people to begin with.
Right. And the reason I have multiple workspaces are typically because people have added me to their teams or, things like that, because I'm helping answer questions for things like that. I pretty much only operate in that personal BC one. That is where when I create boards where it is, or like I said, like that's unless I'm doing work for collaborating with somebody on a different company team sort of thing. That's where I'm at. And Suzanne, I saw you ask, can you look at what we have? So this is a bit tough because it's a live stream, so I can share my screen, but you can't share yours. But what I do recommend is I'm going to post this link in the chat. Head to the Atlassian community, which I'm shocked it's taken us this long to give them a plug, but this is where Mike and I spend a good bit of time. And this is other people, Alicia, a bunch of these other people in the chat. We're also spending time here answering questions about Trello. And so what you can do is you can go here and post your questions. You can also see on this thread about the collaborator limit, there are, do you know the recent count, Mike? Let's see, how many comments do we have on here?
It was more than 300 last time I looked.
Yeah, 322 comments. So you can look through on here and see, and you are probably going to see someone sharing some screenshots of something similar to what you've seen, or asking a question that's pretty similar to a workspace you've got on there. But I also understand if you don't want to look through 322 comments. And so that's where I would recommend, go to join the Atlassian community. That link I just posted right there. You can create a new post, ask the community, ask a question, and just write in there. Feel free, the more screenshots, the better, but explaining your use case, various people can jump in there and help kind of sort out, here's what I have, what do I need to do, and things like that. I've also included some links in this video description. For Mike and I've done, a few other live streams kind of similar to this that have been recorded that walk through some of those tools for how do I see how many people I have, how do I remove people, what's going to be impacted, played through a few different scenarios there. So I definitely recommend checking out some of those resources in there as well.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to add, Mike? I think we might be getting towards the end here.
Yeah, I was just going to see if there's any other questions come through, or if there's anyone who's got a question that's not related to this, just as a change, that would be great.
Yeah. I mean, we sent all questions. Oh yeah, and I mean, hey, not even Trello. I mean, I've got some cats here. If you want to ask me about cats, my camper I'm currently live streaming from, the weather in Baton Rouge. I can chat about all sorts of things. You can ask Mike about why he was hunting for snakes this weekend, and
Yeah, that's. If you've got an interest in serpents and reptiles, then I had an interesting weekend. I definitely should create a Trello board with all of these things on.
Yes.
Definitely.
Did you see, spoiler alerts for anybody who gets my newsletter? You're going to get a sneak peek at this. But this is actually a new board I built. Mike and I were talking about this last week, and I was like, Mike, are you on Instagram, like sharing all of your adventures and stuff? And he's like, no, not really. I tend to get distracted by it. And I tend to post a lot on Instagram about like my travels and stuff, but I also wanted a way to kind of keep track of it. And so I'm actually starting a Trello board, and it's public. If anybody wants to view it, I'll post the link here. Yeah, I'm gonna make a list for each trip that I take, and basically I'll have like a photo dump where I just post like different photos from various things on the trip. And you can see this is when we had like severe weather the other day. This is when I was out rescuing my tent that was flying away, this tent in particular. So yeah, all sorts of things on there. I'm putting pictures in there, and then I've got like little sections where it's like different adventures. So this is my tent that was flying away, problems I've learned to solve. Yeah, I figure it's a good thing for just like reflecting back and remembering stuff, but also like giving myself confidence of there's plenty of problems to solve in these things. So
yeah, I was actually chatting about Trello the other day, and I think it's fair to say that I've had a few comments about like the whole Trello Jira work management thing in the past, but the one of the sort of taglines I had there is like, for managing projects, you've got Jira Work Management. For everything else, you've got Trello, because it can pretty much do anything in business and in life. And that we get paid to help people out to use Trello for business, but we also use it for all the stuff in our lives. Holidays, wedding planning, this kind of thing. Shopping lists, food, this.
Oh my gosh, yeah. 100%. Let me share this other link too while I'm sharing links here in the chat. This is a live stream I did last week talking about some of the ways I use Trello personally. So I talk about my meal planning board, my chores, all sorts of stuff. So definitely check that out. We've got a question here. First of all, Valerie says, Mike, you seem to have a British accent. Wasn't expecting this.
What were you expecting?
Yeah. What were?
I don't know. Like, what does my face look like? I've been traveling around Asia for a while now, and the most I get is everyone looks at me, German. Okay,
really?
Do I look German? Yeah, all the time. Okay. So German or Dutch, and
German
I don't know
or Dutch. Interesting. Okay, all right. Yeah. Hey, I mean, you give off those vibes. That's interesting. Okay. Unfortunately, I broadcast pretty American whenever I'm anywhere, so I'm working on that. We've got another question. Can I have the same card in multiple boards simultaneously? The short answer, this is a good question. What I would say is technically kind of yes. So let's say this is a card here. I don't know if you've played around with smart card links yet. So let's say I want to link this card. I don't think this is exactly what you mean, but let's say I want this card also in my RV board. I can create a card and make the name that card link. Oh wait, is that only for boards? Does it not do that for cards?
I guess it doesn't know.
I guess it's only for boards.
Yeah.
Because like if I were to do the whole board here, I can paste that in as a link right here, and it's gonna like embed the board. But I guess it doesn't really do that for cards. So what you're probably talking about is like mirroring and syncing. And so you're like, can I have this card over here, and then when I make a change on this, it updates over here. The short answer is yes. The longer answer is not easily or necessarily cheaply. Like you will need tools to do that. You will either need to use a power up like Unito, which is a fantastic tool for this. Like if you want to be able to mirror and sync cards and say, when I make a change on the card on this board with my team, it finds the card that does the same thing on this other board and updates it with that same change. It can even work outside of Trello boards. Like let's say you've got your devs refuse to use anything but Jira, but you want to work in Trello, you can sync those two and say, when I do this in Jira, go fix this in Trello and vice versa. You can also, in some cases, build automation. The automation is better for syncing aspects of it, not necessarily mirroring. It's better for like a one-way sync where you're like, if I move this card in a list over here, then go find that related card in this board and move it, but it's a lot of work to build out those rules because you have to think through all of the syncing cases that you care about. And it doesn't really work really well back and forth because then it's like constantly it gets in like a loop of just like seeing too many changes all at once.
Definitely, Unito is it's really unique in the fact that it does proper two-way mirroring. So yeah, that's the only solution available for that. It was something that was talked about many years of Trello. I know the question was asked in the community the other day. So Unito is expensive, but that's because it's the best solution available. You can do it with automation. There is a little top tip on that. If you create an account in your Trello just to run automations, you can do two-way sync because you can write filters to say except by me when it does the action.
That's true, I guess.
You have an extra member in your workspace, you have to pay for that extra.
That's a good hack.
So it's a good little hack. I do use that quite a lot, but you're still limited in what you can do. Like that, you can't just mirror everything every time it changes.
You have to make a rule for each thing you want to watch still, right? Like you basically have to say when this field is updated, when this due date changes, when the due date changes, when it moves. Like there's not a way to say when something changes in the card, do the same thing over there. Like you very much have to like think through every single possible like when a comment is added, when a description changes, when a label is added, like, and you can't even, it's a real build versus buy sort of thing. Like you understand why Unito is, priced the way it is when you look at it, because the build is a lot of stuff there. Oh, Valerie says we need cat names too. Let's see, we've got, oh my gosh, it's gonna be like chaos to move my camera. Do I have any? Oh, I do have one sitting over here on the couch. I'll bring over. I have Lucas. This was my first. All three of my cats are foster fails. My partner and I have foster cats, and I will say we haven't kept all of them, but we have kept none of them. So this is Lucas. He's very happy. I woke him up from his nap for that. And then I have two little babies over here named Lilo and Lexi. So those are the cat names. They must be tired because they usually make an appearance by this point.
Do you think you could get like Power Up developers to sponsor your cats? Like the next cat you get, like name it after Crumble or Ascendboard.
Oh, that's a brilliant idea. Ooh, maybe. Because then, pretty much get a mention every time I'm doing, some live stream or something. That's, or like collars or like little like harnesses or something like that. Now that's a good idea. That's a good idea. I like that.
Is Tony still on the
Let's see. Tony, are you still here? Tony, yeah. We need some cat clothes, Tony. Tony, if you're still watching here. I see another question here. How do you use Trello for activism or charity? I think there's a lot of people that are using it for these sort of things, right? There's a lot of, and I think because its free plan has been so generous for so long, it does naturally lend itself to a lot of like nonprofits. I think a lot of nonprofits have the exact same challenges a lot of businesses have, right? They're trying to keep track of workflows. They're trying to keep track of, donations, people asking for, help with these sort of things. Like, I don't actually have any good boards that I think would represent it, but I would say of every board I make, there's event planning. A lot of nonprofits and activists are, planning events, whether it's like, protests or rallies or fundraising or different things. And there's all sorts of templates for, creating boards for events and event planning and things like that. You're going to have meetings, right? And so there's boards for, handling meetings, and there's boards for collecting, feedback from people, whether it's your volunteers or it's the people you're serving. Like there's all sorts of different things you can do there. Like just even showing up here, new hire onboarding, you're going to get new volunteers and need to be able to like onboard them for things. So I would say, honestly, just about any use case you see in here is probably like, even, speaking of Crumble, like you're managing contacts all the time, whether it's donors or, volunteers or, different sort of things. So I would say pretty much any, here's specifically a nonprofit project management board. So there's all sorts of ways to use Trello for activism. I don't know if there's anything you want to add to that, Mike, but
yeah, to be honest, it's quite an interesting one because I'm just about to sort of embark on doing a few charity things related to some of the conservation stuff I've met whilst I've been on my travels, and Trello is such a perfect thing for brainstorming this kind of thing. And one of the things we've talked about is like the speed in which you can get Trello up and running to start using it.
Yes.
Information in. So you can do it on your phone, you can do it on a computer, but you can get a Trello board up and running and just start putting your ideas down straight, like within minutes. And you're capturing that information, and sometimes that's the most important thing, is just capturing what's in your brain. So I think for charity work and for activism, that Trello is a perfect platform. It's easy to understand, it's easy to use, and it's quick. So I definitely am going to be doing some particular work around that, and like I'm happy to share what I've got.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, definitely. Please do that. And yeah. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing your name correctly, but Letitia, like, thank you so much for asking these questions. Like, they said thank you for, picking up my questions. Like, super happy to. Like, this is way more fun when people ask questions and it's not just me and Mike like chatting at each other on here. So yeah. This is great, and yes, we very much chose the all L names for the cats. That's a theme. We'll see if we. Oh, and I have a dog named Levi, so we really kept the L theme going. So we'll see if we keep that going. But yeah, and yeah, Alicia, mirror function of Trello. Yeah, no, that did not happen. Maybe one day, but yeah, that is still not a thing. You haven't missed anything there yet.
Yeah,
okay.
and I don't know if I was going to say. I think the mirror function. I remember when they announced it. I think it was several years ago, and it was just this like their vision of the future. And so it wasn't like we're going to do it. They just dropped it. It was just they had an idea.
Right.
It didn't. But I think that so everything that I do, where I am mapping certain bits of information between boards and between cards, I don't feel like I've ever needed that full-blown mirroring everything. I think if you actually look at the solution you need, you probably don't need it, and probably what's there from automation is going to be enough. And if it's not, then Unito is an option.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point too. And like I said, especially with these changes, with trying to operate in fewer boards and I almost incentivizing you, I guess I should say, to operate in fewer boards, and being able to use filters. For the most part, I stand by, work in a single board, and don't worry about syncing amongst a bunch of different places until you really have to. Like, some people try to do that just because they think it's cleaner and easier from the start. And I'm like, wait until you have a very specific problem that you think that's how you would solve it, because oftentimes, like you said, it's not necessarily what you need, and you can get by with doing something a little bit differently that also scratches that itch. So I think maybe let's closing statements here, kind of start to wrap things up. We've managed to almost go the whole hour, and I know we've got other things to do here today. But yeah. So sleep. Yeah, this is very, very late for Mike, and appreciative for him being willing to do it a little bit later in the day, because I knew I would be getting back from a late flight last night and not wanting to wake up super early to do this. So very appreciative of that. But yeah, you all you know how to reach us if you have any questions at all. Follow us on LinkedIn. I placed all of these links in the video description, so you should be able to see it. But follow both of us on LinkedIn. We love to share comments and updates and keep everybody posted when we're doing events like this. I've got my YouTube channel, which you're probably watching this on. Feel free to click subscribe. I would not be sad about that. I've also got a newsletter where every week I share tips and tricks about all things Trello, use cases, power-ups, all sorts of things. So definitely feel free to subscribe to that. There's a lot of, in typical Trello fashion, I give a lot of value in the free version of that, but there is a premium version if you want to support my work. And yeah, that's for me. Mike, what about anything for you?
I just want to close by saying I think we've talked about this a lot, and the whole this has been a bit of a shock to a lot of people using Trello 3, and I think the Trello 3 was so generous, and they had to do something, and we've tried to put a positive spin on this, but that's probably with a bit of bias because we love Trello so much. But also, like, it at the end of the day, Atlassian is a business, and Trello is a business tool, and it's a tool for them to make money on. So now we're past this point of this change has happened. Like, now we just have to look at the positives of that, and if this is what it takes to get a few more new and exciting features coming to Trello, and for Trello to be around for a long time, and for us to be able to do even more amazing things with it, then I'm pretty upbeat about that. And I understand it's been painful for a few people, for quite a lot of people, from looking at the number of questions and comments. But at the moment, it's going to open up potential possibility for new things to come to Trello's way, and I'm quite excited about seeing what comes.
Yeah, that's absolutely, I couldn't have said it better myself. So yeah, thank you, Mike. Thank you for explaining that. And Suzanne, definitely feel free to post in the community. Like I said, share some screenshots there and explain more about your use case. I'll try to keep an eye out for your post there, but even if it's not me or Mike, there are other people there who can help answer questions and stuff too. So hopefully we should be able to get you sorted out over there. And yeah, thank you all for joining, and I'm sure we'll do something like this again soon. So we'll see you all around.